Hi everyone, this is Brian Teacher and you are watching Deep Reading with Roald Dahl, Volume 1. Today we're going to be taking a reading comprehension quiz. It's going to be a long passage with 8 questions, and today's focus is going to be about keywords and crossing off bad answer choices. I'm going to go over the questions with you as well as talk about the passage, so just follow along at home in your workbooks or on screen. Let's go. Every story needs a villain, because without a villain, there can be no hero. But what makes a villain different from a hero? Okay, so let's remember that villains are bad guys, okay? So if you didn't watch our last lesson about villains, you can go back to that video and find out more, but we already talked about how villains are bad guys, and they are the opposites of heroes, okay? Like white is the opposite of black, up is the opposite of down, and so on. Okay, we often don't learn much about the lives of villains. Stories usually spend more time describing the lives of heroes. Villains often live in mystery and darkness. We only know that they are up to no good, trying to steal things or create scary monsters. Now remember, I'm underlining my keywords and you should do that at home because it's going to help you to find the answers later when we answer our questions, okay? Let's go back to paragraph 4. Even though they may seem like opposites, heroes and villains often live in each other's worlds. Have you noticed that when the hero wants something, the villain just shows up ready to stand in their way? When the villain is trying to rob the bank, isn't it strange that the hero goes to the same bank that the villain does? Okay, here we're getting an example. They're talking about how heroes and villains live in the same world. Sometimes they live in the same city. Sometimes they live in the same town. They're always kind of next to each other, right? Even when they don't meet all the time, when they do, they're often fighting, but they're near each other. That's what the paragraph is talking about. Let's go now to paragraph 5. We all know that villains are nasty, cruel, and mean-spirited, especially when it comes to animals. But have you ever wondered why they're often so ugly? Aren't there any good-looking bad guys? And why are they either extremely rich or extremely poor? Think about the villains you see in your favorite cartoons or movies. Do any of them seem like they could be your mom or dad? Don't answer that! Okay, so hopefully you don't think your mom or dad is a villain, and you don't think that someone that is in your family could possibly want to take over the world. But what this paragraph is talking about is that villains never seem that normal, right? If we think about Buns, Bogus, and Bean from Fantastic Mr. Fox, they don't seem like people that we would talk to in our everyday lives. I mean, they eat really weird things. One of them is really fat. One of them is really short. One of them is as tall and skinny as a stick. They're not normal, right? They are extreme. Extreme means it's too much of this or too little of that. Let's keep reading. Join me on paragraph 6. Heroes might have superpowers, but underneath their costumes, they usually have a normal life. They go to school, have jobs, and eat the same foods that we do. Sure, they may look a little more handsome and beautiful than the average person, but villains are almost never normal. They tend to live in extremes. The hero can live in a house on the quiet street surrounded by trees and neighbors, but villains live in caves or castles on top of scary mountains or inside spaceships flying around in outer space. Okay. What's this paragraph talking about? It's talking about how heroes can be very normal. They can live in a regular house just like you and me, even if they do have special powers or something that helps them to beat the bad guys and win the day. But bad guys are almost never living in a regular house like you or me. They live in scary castles or a spaceship and so on. If you think about, and if you've seen the movie Minions, Groot is a bad guy and he lives in a normal neighborhood, but inside his house, it's not normal at all. So that's another example in case you've seen that movie. Paragraph 7. There is something to be said about this approach to telling stories. It would seem that there is a belief that most people are good, and it is only when people go to extremes that they become evil. Or perhaps it means that anybody can be a hero. Okay, so if you work hard and you earn money, that's a normal thing to do, right? But bad guys don't do that. They want not just to work hard and get some money, they want to get all the money in the world, right? That's an extreme. It's too much. And so this passage is talking about that when someone wants too much or they do too much, then it can cause them to become bad, right? Just like eating too much junk food or too much candy can be bad for your body, so can wanting too much or doing too much become bad for your mind or your heart, and hopefully it doesn't make you into a bad guy, but in stories it often does. Okay? Now, let's go to the last paragraph. Whatever the case, villains are here to stay. Whether they have pet monsters or want to take over the world, we do need them because without them, our stories are just no fun. Okay, so the passage ends with a little twist. It's talking about how bad guys are bad, but we need them because without them, there would be no story. There would be no one for the hero to fight and no one to try to defeat, no one who would, try to take over the world so that the hero can stop them and give us a fun and exciting story, right? What would Fantastic Mr. Fox be without the three farmers? It would just be him hunting chickens and bringing dinner home. Would you want to read 50 or 100 pages of him just eating chicken with his family? Probably not, okay? So, we do need villains. And that is the point of this passage. But it also talks about how villains are a bit strange. They're odd. And there's a reason for that. As the passage told us, it's showing us that authors, writers, people who make stories, they often imagine that villains are a bit strange. They're not like us, okay? Because we don't want to be like villains. We don't want to be bad. So we shouldn't want to live in a dark, scary castle because that's just weird. Just like you shouldn't want to be a bad guy and try to take over the world. That would be weird. You wouldn't have any friends. But anybody can be a hero. And that's a really hopeful message that we can all learn from because, our heroes, they can be just like us. And in the same way, we can be just like heroes. Okay, stay tuned for the next video that's going to come right after this. And you can watch and follow as I go over how to get the answers, okay? But before we go, let's just do a quick quiz. And I'm going to write down a few statements and you fill in the blanks, okay? Just to make sure that you've been following along and that you understand the story. Villains are almost never blank. Villains live in blank places like scary castles and spaceships. Villains, let me move this down a little bit, hold on. Villains are often blank in appearance. Okay? Appearance means how you look. Now, you can find these answers in the passage. Go ahead and fill them in on your own, and the answers will be in the description of this video. Okay, stay tuned for part 2 of our reading comprehension quiz for Unit 1. as we focus on keywords and crossing off bad answer choices. Bye!